Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to our Tiny Talks workshops. We are glad you've joined us tonight, or that feels like nighttime here, but whatever it is, wherever you are, good afternoon, good morning. I hope you had a great weekend. First, I just got to put out our disclaimer that you are being recorded and the video will be placed on our website. So if that's not okay with you, then you can just exit left stage and we'll see you next time. Anyway, tonight we have some special guests. We have some NOAA members that do school buses, and I'm excited to have them here with us tonight. It's a husband and wife team, and I'm gonna let Robin, you want to take over the introduction and get started?
Okay. All right. Welcome everybody back here again. Monday, doing our most exciting thing, talking with builders and how they're doing stuff. It's kind of interesting to see how different builders of either tiny houses, and tonight we're going to do schoolies, how they do it, what they do, and how they accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. So tonight we have Sabrina and Jordan here, and they are going to show us the old schoolie projects that they're doing. They're actually building schoolies. And so let me turn it over to you guys, kind of introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for having us. So Sabrina and Jordan, we started our company, Phoenix School Buses, over 3 years at this point. Our 3-year point was in August. We started out converting school buses, and now we have moved into vans. We worked on a food truck before, currently working on coaches. So we've kind of done a little bit of everything. We also do mobile businesses, which are super fun. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers it, unless you have something.
We were both in the Navy. That's where we met. We went on a lot of underway time, and we did a deployment in a shipyard period. And once that was over, we kind of decided that we didn't want to go the regular route of going to work in usually civilian power plants is where we would go and kind of extend our careers, but we decided to kind of take a hard left and try something different. And we saw the tiny house movement kind of gaining some steam, and we thought we'd try out a niche, and so far it's worked out okay.
Great. Well, let me ask you, when you're talking about school buses or schoolies, there's short ones, there's long ones, there's different kinds.
Sure.
Can you kind of tell us what we have, what's out there in the way of school buses that you can convert into a schoolie?
Yeah, sure, Robin. So there's several different kinds. For the larger truck body school buses, there's a flat nose version, which is type C, I think it is, and what we call a dog nose version, or type A. Basically, that's where the dog nose has the engine in the front, has a normal hood, where the engine can be accessed there. A flat nose has the engine either right next to the driver, where the driver and the windshield, or basically the front bumper, is all just one wall right there. So you're sitting up kind of on top of the road almost. It's a little strange for people that have never done it. And the engine and those can also be in the back as well, either front or back. There are short buses, which can either be built on a truck frame, or they can be built on like an econo van, like U-Haul type truck van frame. I usually tell people to try and stay away from those because they don't seem as well built and definitely not as well maintained. We've had multiple clients that have had not so great experiences with them mechanical wise. Like for instance, we were supposed to have a client come out here, and we're going to do an electrical system for them. And they went into the shop 2 weeks ago, and they said they'd give us an update when they knew more. So that's one of the drawbacks of getting a schoolie. I tell people, whatever you're planning on buying a schoolie for, spend at least double that in the upfront maintenance to bring it up to standard. Most people look at schoolies as kind of a cheap alternative to an RV type thing. And really it is, but it isn't. You can find them for $5,000-$10,000 for these 40-foot buses. And that's a pretty great deal. If you're trying to get a 40-foot Class A RV, it's going to cost you, 10, 20 times that amount. So people kind of get a little ahead of themselves and thinking that it's such a cheap alternative, but it really is great. It's just there are more upfront costs than what are, really apparent, I guess, at the start.
Well, school buses usually are maintained by, the county. They take care of them, and then when they recycle them, what I've heard is that when you get a school bus, it's important to check out the tires. That a lot of times they buy a school bus and they don't realize, there might be dry rotted or something. And apparently they're a pretty expensive item. What does a new set of tires usually run on one of those?
If you're getting a set of 11R 11R 22.5, which is generally the tire used for large school buses, they're usually like $700 a tire, $700 a tire, and usually you have 6 of them. So you're looking at like $3,000, something like that, to get a new set of tires. It can be quite costly. And that's one of the things that we tell our customers that they need to look out for.
Yeah, usually that's one of the main things. You want good tires if you're going to be driving the bus all over the place.
Yeah, especially because if you spent so much money converting this vehicle or something like that, and you have stuff that you've built underneath the bus and you have a blowout, that could potentially destroy all of this hard work that you've done. So I definitely think that it's important to replace the tires. I think they recommend if they're older than 7 years, that's when you want to replace the tires. But even if you see signs of dry rot on them, we recommend doing it. And if you have it within your budget to replace the tires, then we just say go for it. It's one of the most important things, I would say.
Can you tell us the process of going from a school bus to a motorhome with the Department of Transportation? What does that look like?
So that is super dependent on every state. We get this question a lot. Every state is different. What we tell people is basically to abide by California's rules and regulations whenever you're looking to go through that process, just because we found that they have the more strict rules and regulations. But like some of the big things are that you can't have the school bus still be yellow. I know that that's held a lot of people up before. All the signs that it used to be a school bus need to be removed, like the stop sign and the school district sign and everything like that. Yeah, the flashing lights. And then in Texas, whenever you're going to register it as an RV, these are the Texas rules. You basically need to have 3 out of 5 items. And that's basically just an indication that it actually is an RV. So one of them is a source of heating and cooling, a cooking method. So like a grill or something like that. Food storage, toilets, or some sort of toilet thing. So like a composting toilet would meet that requirement. And then a sleeping area.
And so long as you can meet 3 of those 5 things, you can register it as an RV. And usually most places, you also need a weight ticket, usually.
In Texas.
Yeah, in Texas, at least, you'll need a weight ticket. But you can usually just provide pictures of those things plus the weight ticket. And depending on what your Department of Transportation wants, that'll get you an RV tag in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very stringent here.
We've also had, we're in a small town, so I think that the rules and regulations are a little bit different, but sometimes they even had us fill out a form that stated that we didn't alter the vehicle in any way. So we've never had to do that before, because when we were going to register the bus, it didn't have any like exterior alterations, but I could potentially see like a roof raise or something like that needing to be filled out on that form.
Right. Eric, did you raise your hand? Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was curious because I've done a van build a couple of years ago before I even heard of you guys and certification. I don't even know if you certify vans, but I tried to get mine insured as an RV because RV insurance generally is cheaper because I don't think you're on the highway every day, zooming around, going back to forth to work. And I I really struck out on that with my insurance agent. She said, because unless you're in this non-governmental agency that all the group of all these RV builders, you can't do that.
Hmm.
Well, I've never heard of that. But now I'll tell you what I did. I took
The
my tiny
question's
house.
about insurance, basically. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, I took my tiny house down that I built. I built a park model and I built a tow behind, and I took it down to the Motor Vehicle Administration, and they came out. I had to bring all my receipts with me, and they gave me a title for what's called an assembled from parts RV travel trailer, and then I got insurance on it as an RV. So I don't know whether you could do that, but I think what they're talking about, and I've heard this before, that if you have a certain number of like 3 out of the 5 things, you basically have to take all the seats out and take everything out of the bus, and then if you have 3 of the 5 things that they mentioned that are quote unquote RV style type stuff, then they'll give you the title for an RV. And what's the advantage of having that title? Not only the insurance, isn't there some other advantages for, you have to have a CDL license if it's a school bus and you don't if it's an RV or something like that?
So in Texas, you only have to have a commercial driver's license if you're using it for a commercial purpose. Or if you're trying to tow greater than 10,000 pounds. Otherwise, it's a combined weight. It's all a combined weight. If you're trying to tow more than 10,000 pounds with a vehicle that weighs more than 26,000 pounds, then you'll need a CDL. Or if you're trying to commercially transport people or use it for a commercial purpose, like, you're using it as like a car transport or something where you put a flatbed on the back of it, then you need a CDL. Otherwise, you don't need one. If it's classified as an RV, because all these retired people and elderly and well, anybody really that drives an RV around, nobody gets a CDL for it for the most part. You're not required to. If you've ever heard of anybody doing that, just some people will do it, just take the course, get the license because they want the experience and it makes them feel better about it, and that's great. Go ahead and do that. But if you're not using it for a commercial purpose, you don't need a commercial driver's license.
Well, my question in particular, because we've now talked trailers and buses, but mine was a ProMaster van and insurance. And there's another great story I have behind this, or a terrible story actually. Because I even had to fight my insurance company a bit about, I'm buying this for personal use. And they're like, no, that's a commercial vehicle. Why would you have one for personal use? So, I mean, what about this getting a van, not a school bus or a towable, certified as an RV?
So the problem that I've seen with, what was that?
Have you looked into that?
Oh, okay. So the problem that I've seen with insurance, and I've seen a lot of schoolie owners and van people do this too, is that it could just be the particular person that you're talking to. It could be the insurance company. It could be the particular person that you're talking to. So if you try contacting different people, you may have less of an issue. But I've just seen so many people call like one agent at State Farm and they said they can't help them, and they call a different agent at State Farm and they can help them. I also think it depends on how much effort the agent is willing to put in to help you out. We have a really great local State Farm here that's helped us out before. But I also know that part of the reason with, like you were saying, with vans and everything like that is how often you're going to be driving it, because with RVs and everything, you're really not supposed to live in them for more than, I think, half of the year. So that's why a lot of schoolie owners have issues too, is because they are going to be driving it around year round.
Yeah, and a lot of it from the schoolie forums and blogs, it really just depends on who you talk to. I know that there are several insurance agents that are listed on some of the schoolie forums and blogs and pages that people will go to because they're willing to work with them and actually know the policies for the insurance that you can qualify for. So,
What is it titled as
my
now?
agents,
How is it titled now, Eric? On the title.
this
what
is
does it
an
say?
unmodified cargo van that I happen to own.
Okay,
So I kind of at that point just got frustrated, says if this thing burns to the ground and all that improvement might not come back to me. But this tails into a second story in that we were rear-ended in Colorado by a commercial beer delivery truck and crushed the back half of it in. And now we're in a huge fight, not with our insurance company, but theirs to cover the dang thing.
mm,
I thought it'd be in
Yeah,
pretty good shape, you know, being clearly not at fault in a commercial truck, but I'm going through the same typical insurance nightmare you could ever expect. With
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
that's
we-
hard to pull comps and repair values on if you can find somebody to do it.
yeah, no, I hear that. I hear that. And, you know, the thing is, you know, sometimes the big corporations, beer companies and big corporations, they find it easier to fight the insurance claim rather than pay the insurance claim. And you get tired of it and you settle.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, tell us a little bit more about the van conversion. You talked about, you know, your schoolie conversions. What about your van conversions? Tell us a little bit about, you know, what the difference between that would be. And also you said there was a third one that you mentioned. Which one was that?
Box trucks, school buses, vans, and
Coach.
coaches.
Coaches.
Yeah.
That's the one I was thinking about.
Mhm, yeah.
What's the difference between a coach and a school bus and a van?
So we actually haven't done too many vans before. Those were more popular when we started out, and then maybe it's just not as well known that we do vans or something like that. But we've also had people reach out to us and say, like, do you convert shuttle buses? And we're like, yeah, they're basically all the same thing. You know, once you demo everything, it's all just basically the only difference is the curve of the roof. But maybe you want to talk about the coach buses.
Yeah, sure. Well, the vans, starting with the vans, I'll start with the vans. They're more complex to design because you are extremely limited in your square footage and what you can put where. And you know, for people that want a bathroom, they want, you know, a kitchen, they want a living room, they want a bedroom, and they've got like 80 square feet. So how do you make all that happen, right? Designing all that around their vision can get kind of hairy sometimes. There are a lot of great people that have developed floor plans and models, and I kind of draw on those for inspiration, and I'll work with the client to kind of like make what they want happen as best as we can. The best way that I can do it is use the 3D modeling software to kind of show them like, will this work here? Yes, it will. No, it won't. And we use that for all the projects that we do, because it really helps. You know, if someone thinks they can squeeze by in an 18-inch hallway, and I can show them in this model, like, you have that much room to try and move through every day down your hallway, they can finally like, oh, that's not really going to work. Like, right, it's not. So it makes it a little bit easier to connect with the client and bring them down to reality of what they're moving into. Because most people, for instance, this coach that we're working on right now, I know I'm skipping the schoolie, I'll go back to the school bus, but the coach that we're working on right now is approximately 8 by 45, so it's about 340, 350 square feet. And we're developing it, and we're building it for a family of 6 who's, you know, moving from a house that's a few thousand square feet. So, you know, they're wanting to live in this thing full time, and they're wanting to move into it. And, you know, it can be hard for them to wrap their head around, this is all the space that you have. So the coach is not as hard to develop and design.
You also have more headroom. too.
Right. Yeah, you have, well, vans and coaches are a little similar in the headroom, especially if you get the vans that have the higher ceilings. It's not quite as bad, but you know, you only have about 4 paces from your driver's seat to your back door instead of in a coach where you've got like 30. So it's a little bit different. We might be able to walk you through the coach that we're working on right now. It was a little bit easier to develop because it's so big. You know, I can actually make room for the bedroom, their bunk area where their kids are going to sleep, and their bathroom, their kitchen, and they have a little living area as well. But really what she was saying was that once you've got them all, there's not too much of a difference between them all. It's mostly how you build the walls, the floor, and the ceiling. once you can figure out how to do that, then you can build it into a nice plumb box. Then you can kind of play around with it a little bit easier. Getting it to that point can be challenging for vans because not only do they have a rounded top from front to back, but they also have rounded sides. They're like a big egg. It's very strange construction. I don't know how they managed to do that in the factories, but you know, they have teams of engineers that work on that, and I'm only one guy. So trying to make those walls flat and workable is actually quite a challenge.
I will say that one perk that I've seen in the coaches too is that they have, like, for instance, the one that we're working on and the one that we will be working on, they have huge underbelly storage unit or underbelly storage, and it's pass-through storage too. So for example, we were finally able to install the basement AC units that I think are on a lot of the RVs. We were finally able to install one of those because we have the storage space. So it's great because it can actually be ducted throughout the home, and it's way more quiet than the traditional rooftop AC unit. So I think the storage bays are a really great perk of the coach buses.
Yeah, those are really
Cool.
neat. Very nice addition.
Well, maybe we'll get a chance to go out and take a look at your shop here in just a minute, but I had a couple more questions. Can you talk about the use of propane as opposed to electric and solar and all of that when you're trying to go off grid, you know, on one of these things? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I love this subject because I think that there are a lot of things that can be talked about within it. So for example, with propane, we've recently run across a lot of people that didn't want to use propane. I'm not sure if they're worried because of the safety issues or something like that. But when people talk about wanting to go off grid, that is one of the main things that we talk about is you need to have a propane system in place if you want to truly be off grid capable. Because we've had people request induction cooktops, and we're like, are you planning on being plugged in the entire time that you're using this? Because they draw a lot of power. So propane water heaters, propane ranges, anything that you can get that can be in propane, if you want to be off grid, I think that you should.
Except the refrigerator.
Except the refrigerator. That is true. But they do make 12-volt fridges, which is something that we suggest. They're a little bit more expensive, but they draw way less power.
Yeah, we try and get a handle on what the client's expectation for living off grid is. Like, do they want to be off grid for a weekend? Do they want to do it for 1 week? Or do they have this vision of wanting to live off grid forever? So, you know, you have different stages of that as you go along. How much propane would we recommend, or propane appliances do we recommend that you try and go with? If you're trying to do it for just a weekend, you could probably get away with doing all electric and having a generator, maybe having some solar panels. Most people we talk to have done some research, but really the solar panel idea and the batteries, you could end up spending $20,000 or $30,000 on a solar system and generator and batteries and inverters and all this stuff, or you could have bought like a $1,500 propane system, right? Like, there's a huge difference in the price range. And even that big solar system, that costly solar system and generator, it still might not power or do everything you want it to do, because you don't have enough panels. You don't have enough room for enough panels. You know, a lot of people will get a lot of batteries and stack those, and that's great. But generally speaking, it's going to be maybe 20 times the cost to do solar. And as much as I enjoy like wiring it all together and building it and constructing the system and designing it, it's just not practical if you don't have the money for it.
Yeah.
It's really cool if you want to be prepared for like the end of the world, and I'm not gonna be able to get propane, but I've got my solar panels, you know, that's cool. But if you don't have the funds for it, it can really bankrupt some people that just they don't really understand what the conversion process is from the solar to the batteries to the inverter, and then you bring in shore power if you have it available, maybe a generator. There's a lot that I can say on it, because there's a lot of different routes you can go with it. But we always like to recommend propane for people that are trying to go off grid for long periods of time. It's just more cost effective right now.
And we also recommend that even if you want a solar system, we recommend installing a generator, even if you never have to use it, even if it's just a backup. Most people, if you're going to have an AC unit installed, it's going to cost, first of all, you have to have the roof space to have sufficient solar panels and battery capacity and everything like that. But second of all, if you want to run an AC unit, more than likely it's going to be very expensive to use just solar power. So even if you get a generator just to run your AC unit and solar to power everything else, we recommend at least getting a generator as a backup source of power.
So ideally, what you would suggest is obviously a small solar system would be able to run your lights and a pump, some of your pumps and things like that. You could get a much smaller solar system, but then run everything else that you can run off of the gas, the propane gas. And then what about, still, if you're talking off grid, you still would need to have something in the way of water supply, tanks and things like that. What do you, what do you recommend in that?
So we've done a lot of research on this too, because we've had a lot of people come to us that want a very large water capacity. So we finally just like looked into it to see like, what is the largest water tank that they recommend? And all of the other manufacturing companies that we've looked, the RV manufacturing companies that we've looked into, and all of the references that or resources that we've looked into state that you don't want to have your water sitting for greater than 2 weeks, because once it's been sitting for 2 weeks, it starts to grow things. And sure, you can treat it with bleach, but is that actually something that you want to put into your body? So even if you're going to have, 200 gallons of fresh water or something like that, at the end of the 2-week mark, you're still going to want to empty your water tanks and refill them. So the maximum that we recommend and the maximum that we've seen on even really substantial, really nice RVs is 100 gallons of fresh and 100 gallons of gray. We've kind of taken a little bit of a different route than RV companies. We like to make our gray water tanks slightly larger than our freshwater tanks, just because,
Or the same.
but slightly larger if possible, just because we've seen that you can have external sources of liquid, basically, like you can buy a water bottle from the store and then pour it down your drain, and then that's not water coming from your freshwater tank. So it's not accounted for. But yeah, 100 gallons I think should be absolutely fine. And that's even with like a family of 4, really.
Yeah, if you have the proper like shower head, water
Mhm.
conserving shower head, maybe a metered sink for water conservation. If you take the proper steps to conserve your water, 100 gallons should last you plenty of time.
Mhm.
And you should be able to go and refresh your tanks on a regular basis without having to worry about running out.
And even so, something to consider is, and it's something that we install in all of our builds, is a gravity fill thing. So even if in an emergency you run out of water, you can go get a gallon jug of water from the store and just fill it in using that inlet, basically.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Sorry, didn't cut you off.
Well,
All right, and sounds good. And then how about, do you recommend composting toilets, RV toilets, black water tanks, anything like that?
Our standard packages come with composting toilets. Generally, most of the people that come to us to do schoolies, they want to be off grid, so we just offer the composting toilet just as a start. We don't usually install a black water tank or an RV style toilet. We do have those options, and I don't think anyone has opted for one yet. So it's not a very popular option with those people that want to do schoolies. They want to be more autonomous. And having a black water tank really, it doesn't limit you more than a gray water tank as to where you can dump it. Some states don't care where you dump your gray water, and I won't say what states those are because I don't want to be quoted on it. But every state cares where you dump your black water, and I can guarantee you that. So you cannot just go and dump that on the side of the road somewhere. It has to be treated, it has to be properly stored and transported. So black water, it really complicates where you can go, and a lot of people that want schoolies or custom RV don't really want to have to deal with that. Some of our clients, our older clients that want a black water toilet, we're kind of in the process of working with some now, but we haven't had one yet. just got a question down here.
Okay, and then
Uh,
also, while you're reading that question, yeah, the other type of toilets, you have your regular flush toilets, but you would have to hook up to, utilities, full
Right.
utilities and everything in order to use a regular flush toilet because it uses a lot more water than an RV toilet. And then you have your macerating toilet, which, basically grinds everything up and pumps it out an 1.5 inch PVC. If you have to go uphill to a septic or a sewer. And then you have your incinerating toilets. Have you done any incinerating toilets?
We have not done any incinerating toilets. I think that one cycle takes about 2,000 watts of power, and that takes about an hour. So it is really, really impractical, especially if you want to be off grid. If you're plugged in, great, grab one, but it is not going to allow you to live off grid in any capacity. You'd have to run your generator just so you can use your toilet.
Is there an incinerating toilet that uses propane?
Not that I've seen before.
true. I don't-
We've only done research into them for only 1 or 2 people have requested them.
Yeah.
And once we saw basically how much power it consumed, we were like, okay, this is not meant for you. But so we haven't done a lot of research into the incinerating toilets, but I haven't seen any.
Maybe you know of one.
Oh, yeah.
I don't.
I don't, but
Okay.
I just thought I'd ask the question. Yeah, and I think Nancy had a question.
Yeah, she wanted to know if we've ever built out a spoolie with a motor in the back. Yes, we have. Rear engine spoolies are probably the most popular right now, mostly because it's so quiet. Well, I'm not going to say mostly because, but a couple of the reasons. It's very quiet when you're driving. It gives you a lot more room to work with in the front of the bus. The rear of the bus doesn't really lose that much space because you can build up on the platform. So you can still put the bed up high if you want. You can build stairs up to it, or if you're limber enough, you can jump up to it. But you really don't lose a lot of space, and you gain a lot of peace of mind, I guess, when you're driving with a rear engine spoolie. So and also those are more of the direction that a lot of the more heavy duty spoolies have gone. That can go fast. They go faster. They can travel farther just because they have larger engines in them usually. Like the 8.3 liter Cummins is a rear engine, a diesel that's really popular. It's one of the most popular ones out there. But it didn't present any unique challenges. I find it actually the easiest to work with, to be honest. You don't have to usually contend with a door in the back, like an emergency escape
Oh,
door.
I was gonna say that might be a positive for some
So there's
people.
that window that's an emergency escape out off the top of the platform, but there's no door that you really have to account for opening in the back, which could cause leaking problems. And you need an access point. Do you want to block it off? There's other things you have to consider with. So no unique challenges. More, I wish I could work more on those ones, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, guys, in our time left, do you want to try to fire up your phone and see if we can get out there and take a look at your shop and some of the stuff that you have going on there? You probably want to get away from the computer when you fire it up because you'll get feedback from the 2 different ones.
Okay.
Let's see.
So if one of you wants to go out there and then you can
All right. Yeah, I got it. We'll make it happen.
and then Jordan can stay
Awesome.
here. While she's doing that, let me ask you about the windows. Obviously, these things they're just single pane glass, tempered glass windows. They're not very well insulated. The U value is not very good on those. So one of the biggest challenges with schoolies is heat and cooling. It takes a lot of energy in a hot climate and a lot of energy in a cold climate to keep them hot and cold. Do you have any special tips or solutions for those?
We offer in our base package a removal of 10 windows, and we'll cover them up with 16 gauge sheet metal, and we'll insulate them like the rest of the walls of the bus. I usually, when I'm developing and designing the layout with the client, I will tell them which windows I would take out, and I would recommend more than less. That usually rubs schoolie owners the wrong way because they really like the windows, they like the light, they want to be able to have all that natural sunlight and kind of the nostalgia of the school bus windows. It all depends really on what the client wants. I suggest always removing more windows because it will give you more energy efficiency and will let you go to more places more often. But if you're one of those people that's like, oh, I'm going to chase the 70-degree weather, I want all the windows, and that's fine, do it. That's great. But it all depends on the individual. If you want to be able to go to Phoenix in the summertime, you may not want any windows. If you want to go to Maine in the wintertime, you may not want any windows. So it's really, where are you trying to end up? What are you trying to do? Because you can take them anywhere in the country with very little problem, so long as you have the right registration, insurance, etc. You should be
Right.
good to go. So it
What
depends
about
on if you're-
insulation? How do you insulate, when you say you insulate, how do you insulate your walls?
Right, so
on them?
we close cell spray foam, the walls and the ceiling. We have a company that comes in and does that. We subcontract it out. They do a great job for us. They'll usually put about 2 inches on there, depending on how much space we leave them. And the R value, I think, is about 7 an inch, so we'll get about 14, which is pretty great. We'll do foam board in the floors. We'll do some subfloor framing, some foam board, and then we'll put some plywood over the top of that, some subfloor plywood. So that's at least insulated a little bit more than just the plywood. There's not really a requirement for floor insulation in an RV or a schoolie, but we try and put some in there anyway because you don't really want to freeze your toes off when you're walking around. It can get pretty cold on that metal.
Right. Yeah, especially in a cold climate. And they also
Yeah.
have, I know that is it Gold Seal, or there's some companies out there will put heaters in the floor too.
Sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you can do that. The resistance, it's not real costly for the power that it draws, but apparently floors are a big deal, and cold floors are not attractive. There she
True.
is.
Oh,
Hey, there she is.
All right.
okay. I will mute this, and I will go outside.
Okay, so not completely finished, but this is the coach that we're working on right now for the family of 6. We've got these really nice cabinets put in, so we've got some RAM board over them, but this is kind of what the cabinets look like. So this is the kitchen area. They're basically going to have a cooktop right here, a sink over here, and they've got some overhead cabinets as well. And then they've got a separate washer and dryer, or dryer and washer. They've got I guess a 1.5 bath in here. This will be the shower area, and this will be the toilet area.
This is a full bath.
Okay, a full bath, whatever. This will be the bunk room right here. So like we mentioned, they have 4 kids. So each of them has their own little outlets and a light switch for all of them. Or sorry, not that one. A light switch for all of them. We've got these really cool curtains that we're going to install that are kind of like Navy rack curtains where they have storage in the pockets and everything like that. And then we have 2 100-gallon freshwater tanks. So like we were talking about, this is a family of 6, so they wanted 200 gallons of freshwater storage and 200 gallons of gray water storage. The great thing about this is that because it is a coach, we're not so much worried about the water weight that they're going to have from the water. And then we've got some overhead cabinets right here.
Did you guys build the cabinets, or did you have them built in a shop and brought them out?
So the ones up in the front, we had them built outside of the shop, and then the guy brought them in and installed them. These were built within the shop, and they have just doors that slide basically.
Right.
That's
Very
really
good.
cool.
Yeah.
Very good.
So oh, and then this is kind of what I can go down to the underbelly storage bays, but this is what we were talking about. So they have their AC and heat, they actually have this neat little Nest thermometer. Thermostat. But they have their air conditioning and their heat ducted throughout the home, which, because this was a coach bus and it had an AC unit previously installed, we were able to just kind of reuse those ducting paths, I guess.
Hmm. Now,
So-
I saw 2 thermostats. How many thermostats are in?
So
You
this
have
is
in
just
here.
for their hot water heater, if that's what you were referring to.
No, I thought I saw a thermostat over a bunk bed.
A thermostat over a bunk bed.
What was that round thing on your, yeah, what is that round thing? Is that a thermostat
This
by
thing?
the window? Yeah,
Oh yeah, so this is their
That's a ventilation duct.
yeah.
oh, okay, okay.
It's a diffuser.
All right, so that's the air conditioning that comes out of that duct right
Correct,
there.
yes, yes.
I
Yep.
got you.
Yeah, and then they have little dimmer switches too. That one's the easiest to get to. So they requested that they get little dimmer switches. So in all the bunks in the master bed and the bathroom, they have their lights on a dimmer switch, or on a dimmer, I guess. And then this area is obviously not completed yet, but it's going to be 2 couches that are facing each other. They're going to have tables that fold up and inwards to meet in the middle, so that they can all sit around the table. And then, so these
that's
are the
the,
neat,
That's the driver. Show us the driving area while you're walking right through there. Yeah, how does that play out? So you got steps going up to a driver that sits in the seat there and,
Mhm.
okay, all right. Yeah, yeah,
Oh.
got it.
Yep.
Nice.
That is really
Okay.
nice.
yeah, it's
Very
awesome.
cool.
It was fun to demo. So this is their kind of electrical bay, I suppose. I think they're planning on adding solar later. But they have, as you can see, plenty of storage space for all their batteries. A canoe, if they wanted to fit a canoe underneath here, they could. And then let's see. So we've got the AC unit that I was talking about.
Hmm.
So it's just ducted using the old let's see.
The ductwork, the old ductwork,
Yep,
the
the old
existing
duct.
duct, and you just connected it with flex duct.
Yes.
Okay.
We made
Let's
some
look at,
modifications, but
yeah, can you show us the paint job on that thing? I just kind of
Oh,
got a,
this is this is
I was
the
gonna
original
ask the
wrap
same thing.
job.
that's the original paint job?
Yes, this is it was previously a tour company called Dan Dippert, I guess.
Ah. Well, I'd leave the paint and just cover the Dan Dipper up, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I
It's very
like that.
fun. But you can
So-
tell that it is peeling in some places, so maybe they'll get it redone.
So, yeah, nice. Looks like that's all your pumps and
Yep.
filters and stuff for your water. That's
Yep, they
good.
wanted an industrial sized filter for their water that they didn't just have to connect to a hose. So that's like an inline filter.
Right.
That's
What
nice.
do the numbers look like on this as far as, do you know what they paid for it and what the end product's gonna be when it's all said and done?
So this end one, I think, is 117,000. Their
Okay.
bus, I think they paid 20,000 for it. But one of our other clients, I think, paid 5,700 for his bus. I don't really know the differences as far as like, I think this one had recently come out of operation. Let me just get inside the. So I think this was recently retired, whereas the other one maybe hadn't been in circulation for a little while.
Yeah,
So-
Eric wants
so-
to know, where is the heat exchanger for AC?
So it's just in the same, it's the set one big unit. Yeah, it's a
It's
heat.
like, it's like a package unit, you know, that goes to a mobile home or manufactured home where they have a package unit that sits outside and they have one duct that's a supply line and one duct's a return line. And so the compressor and the fan and everything's all in that one unit. It's called a package unit. I'm looking at one right now for a home, and I think they're about $3,000, $3,200 or something.
That seems like you found a cheaper one then, because when we were looking at these, they were $4,000 to $5,000. So they're pretty expensive, but I really like them. They're very nice.
It's a 2-ton, 2-compressor unit with a heat pump in it.
Yeah, it's called Coleman Mach, MACH.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
Interesting.
So let me understand then. So basically 117 plus 20, so they'll have 137,000 in the home when they're done. Is that what you're saying?
Roughly. Yeah.
And they've chosen to go the route of, they have a house now, so they're planning on selling it and basically using that money from the sale to pay off they took out a what's it called?
Home equity?
Yeah, they took out equity, and then they're planning on using that money to pay that off whenever they sell their home.
Okay. All right. Anybody got any more questions while we're right here? Raise your hand or put it in the chat.
You have to send me pictures when it's done.
Okay, we
Yeah.
will.
No problem.
We've made that statement to a lot of people. We've got a lot of people interested in when it's finished.
Yeah.
I like to feature those.
Can you give us a quick scan of your shop, the door coming in and out and where you put things and how you do stuff? Because that'd be interesting if somebody wants to set up a shop to do school, but
Projects through there.
We've got kind of our little shelving system set up right here. Our wood storage.
This is mostly our carpentry area.
Mm-hmm.
So we do most of that. And we built all these tables to be mobile, so we can move them if we need to.
all right,
got a lot.
and it's connected to your office, so you can just kind of go in the office or come back out and check on things and go back in and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. The office is in the building. It's over that way.
Cool.
This is actually a third bay here, and this fifth wheel we're doing an electrical system on and a bathroom remodel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
that'll be fun. It's interesting to see what the RV manufacturers put in, so we can kind of take a look at what they like to do.
Yeah.
I have a
Yep.
question. Is it just the two of you? Or do you have?
No,
No.
it is definitely not just the two of us. It used to be, and then we were basically working 365 days a year. So we brought on some help, and then we also have some stuff contracted out, like the spray foam insulation, the cabinets. Sometimes we have those contracted out. So no, we have help now.
That's great. You've grown to where you need help.
Yes.
Eric wants to know, what do you think your price range will be for van conversion?
Van conversions usually somewhere depending on the options that the customer wants. It usually starts in the 20s and goes to they can go from there. I won't say how high it can go, because that's up to the customer and what they want to put into it. But the base model will probably start in the 20s somewhere and go up from there. But it's not an outrageous amount of work for us, because we're set up to do these conversions. So it's not so bad. I guess that's the answer to that.
They start at just like with our schoolies, a tier 2 package would start at $13.50 per linear foot of vehicle. So that's just kind of regardless of van, box truck, school bus, coach, or anything like that. It's $13.50 from bumper to bumper.
$1,350
Oh.
per lineal foot.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Oh, this might be interesting to some people. So this is our passion project.
Okay.
Yep.
And what is it? Tell us what it is.
It's a 1974 Crown Super Coach, and it's a mid-engine. It's a 5-speed manual, and it's from California. Yeah.
Yeah.
Show the bus. They want to see the bus. They
Oh,
don't want to see
okay.
me.
Okay.
They want to
okay.
see you in the bus.
Yep.
What,
So
what do you mean by mid-engine? The engine's in the middle of the bus?
That's correct.
Mm.
right there.
Underneath that board, that opening there.
Yep. And
Interesting.
you can see there's a few other entry points too in the floor for maintenancing. And
Is
then
that the one you guys drove from California?
Yes,
Is
it
it
is.
Lady Gaga?
Yes, it is Lady Gaga.
I checked out your website today. I saw that.
Yes.
It's something we're trying to get done, and in between projects we work on it, and it's been an ongoing project for longer than I care to admit.
I feel you. I feel you. Well, guys, thank you
so-
so much for,
Oh,
thank you
I
so
was just
much for
gonna say,
everything.
you guys want to share your website?
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So it's just phoenixschoolbuses.com.
I'll type it in the chat when we go back inside.
Okay,
All right.
perfect.
Do
Yeah.
that. And Leanne, I'll turn it back over to you and you can kind of wrap us up.
Yeah, well,
I'll go
I
to
just want to say thanks, guys. That was really, really great information. Very interesting. I'm so glad that you guys had time to take out of your busy schedule to help us out with our workshop tonight. And we'll look forward to seeing those pictures of that family of 6. Wow.
Yes.
Sounds like fun. And so
Yes.
the school bus projects are my favorite. I get to talk to a lot of the new members, and we don't have any that really do that much in the school bus conversion. So I just appreciate you guys coming on tonight. And there's the website. Just remember, school is SK, and Eric was interested in that. So thanks so much, guys. Tomorrow
Absolutely.
night we will have Lindsay Wood, the tiny house lady, talking about advocacy. So join us tomorrow night, and just want to say thanks again, Sabrina and Jordan. And you guys have a super good evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having
All
us.
right. Thank you.
Bye.
All
Bye.
right. Thanks again. Bye, everyone.